My friends tonight are probably two of the most legendary cult folk heroes alive today. I'm talking about the great John Prine and Ramblin' Jack Elliott. They're individual critics the world over as a brilliant talent, crafts songs as detailed as a finely stitched garment. A man whose songs show the humor and social observation of a Woody Guthrie and the emotional purity of a Hank Williams. And Ramblin' Jack Elliott, well, Newsweek magazine called him the folk singer's folk singer back in the 60s. He's been called the son of Woody Guthrie and the father of Bob Dylan. And he's had writers like Christopherson and Hoyt Axton write songs about him. And his legend just keeps growing because he's so elusive. But we have pinned him down for the show tonight. And it's going to be a special show because their kind is really rare. I've asked John Prine to kick us off with a song that's one of my favorite John Prine songs. It gives us a little insight into his philosophy on life. Spanish Pipe Dreams. Take it, John.
She was a level-headed dancer on the road to alcohol. And I was just a soldier on my way to Montreal. Well, she pressed her chest against me about the time the jukebox broke. Yeah, she gave me a peck on the back of her neck. And these are the words she spoke. Blow up your teeth, throw away your pipe, go to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches, try and find Jesus on your own. Well, I sat there at the table and I acted real naive, for I knew that topless lady had something up her sleeve. Well, she danced around the barroom and she did the hoochie coo. Yeah, she sang her song all night long, telling me what to do. Blow up your teeth, throw away your paper, go to the country, build you a home, plant a little garden, eat a lot of peaches, try and find Jesus on your own. Well, I was young and hungry and about to leave that place. Oh, and just as I was leaving, well, she looked me in the face. I said, you must know the answer. She said, no, but I'll give it a try. And to this very day, we've been living our way. Here is the reason why. We blew up our teeth, flew well paid, went to the country, built us a home, had a lot of children, fed them on peaches, and they all found Jesus on their own. Yo!
Don't go away because we're going to meet John Prine in just a minute. John Prine. John Prine. The John Prine.
No, I got a cousin in Bowling Green. His name's John Prine, too.
Oh, maybe we got the wrong one.
You might have.
No, we got the right one. When you wrote Spanish Pipe Dreams, where did that come from? Why didn't you call it American Pipe Dreams?
Oh, because, well, it was, I mean, it's about blowing up your TV, you know, going out and living in the sticks with, you know, and it's like a romantic idea. And I always thought like Spanish stuff was romantic. So I called it Spanish pipe dream. I should have just called it Blow Up Your TV, because the word ain't Spanish or the word
that's what
pipe
everybody
dream
calls it
ain't.
anyway, blow up the TV.
I know. I was telling the guys in the band I'm just going to stop naming songs and just wait till somebody goes, hey, sing that song, you know, about blowing up your TV or something, and then name it then. And if they don't ask for it, I won't cut it.
You're probably the biggest cult figure in America. How's that feel?
That word always bothers
Cult
me.
bothers me too.
I feel like I was in Jonestown or something, you know? Or, I mean, it's like, that's what a cult is to me, where people dance around and voodoo stuff and shake things. Of course, I've played with places like that too, you know, but I know what they mean, but I've had people explain it to me over and over and over, like a cult. Does that mean you're always supposed to have a devout but small following? You know?
Well, you have a fanatic.
Oh, they're great. Boy, they stick with me throughout the years, you know. It's really nice.
And I'm one of them. I'm one of them. Your songs always have lyrics that have a message in them that have tremendous impact. I mean, I've never really heard a John Prine song that I didn't say, wow, so many of them. Sam Stone.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that as a mailman. Yeah, I was a mailman for 6 years up in Chicago. Delivering the mail, like after you learn the route and you get to know some of the dogs and that, there really ain't much to think about out there. You're just sticking these letters in the slot. So it was kind of like spending 8 hours a day in a library without any books, you know, and I'd just start making up songs on the route. And I wrote that one. I remember writing it on the mail route. I couldn't wait to get home that day so I'd get the guitar out and see if it actually works on the guitar.
Sing it. Sing part of it.
Sam Stone came home to his wife and family after serving in the conflict overseas. And the time that he'd served had shattered all his nerve and left a little shrapnel in his knee. But the morphine eased the pain, and the grass grew around his brain and gave him all the confidence he lacked. With a purple heart and a monkey on his back, there's a hole in Daddy's arm where all the money goes. Jesus Christ died for nothing, I suppose. Little pitchers have big ears, don't stop to count the years. Sweet songs never last too long on broken radios. It's kind of a lullaby too, in a way.
Did you actually know a Sam Stone?
Oh, mess of them, pretty much. Me and about 6 of my buddies all got drafted at the same time, January '66. That was about the time they went from 20,000 troops in Vietnam to 500,000, you know. And they said it was still a conflict. We were just over there protecting things with 500,000 troops. But we all got drafted, and they sent some of us to Vietnam. They sent me to Germany, and one of the other guys to Germany too, and some of them they kept in the States. But when we all got out, a couple of years later, everybody had changed quite a bit, you know. A lot of changes. This was the end of '67, beginning of '68, and I couldn't quite piece it together what was so different about it, whether it was just being away and growing up or something, or what. But like a lot of the guys that come home from Nam, and I had a buddy come home from Germany a month after he got out. I called his house, and he was in a veterans hospital having shock treatments. You know, he just went bananas. And I knew it when I seen all of his shoes was pointed the same way under his bed, that he wasn't really out of the Army. You know, had those hangers on the right way. I said, oh, he's in trouble. Somebody blew reveille right now, he'd run out the window. And a couple of the other guys just had drug problems and stuff. And of course, I believe that just about everybody knew a brother or a husband or son or something that didn't come back at all. But a lot of the ones that came home, it never seemed like they came back. You know, a lot of them still ain't home. And there were no parades or nothing. You know, and all of us, I'm 38 now, but all of us kind of grew up with Audie Murphy movies and stuff like that. And I used to jump on, after I saw the hell and back, I passed an Oldsmobile car lot on the way home, and I jumped up on the hood and I shot everybody on the street, you know. But when our work comes along, all of a sudden they just want to be ashamed of it and ain't got no parades or nothing, so it was kind of weird. I wrote that song to kind of explain it to myself, you know, what the feeling was.
Well, you did a good job on it. We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to hear you sing a little bit about Muhlenberg County.
All right.
So don't go away.
When I was a child, my family would travel down to western Kentucky, where my parents were born. And there's a backwards old town that's often remembered so many times that my memories are worn. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's gold train hauled it away. Well, sometimes we travel right down the Green River to the abandoned old prison down by Adria Hill, where the air smelled like snakes and we'd shoot with our pistols, but empty pop bottles was all we would kill. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train just hauled it away. How about it, Robert? Then the coal company came with the world's largest shovel. They tortured the timber and they stripped all the land. Then they dug for the coal till the land was forsaken, and then they wrote it all down as the progress of man. Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train hauled it away. When I die, let my ashes float down the Green River and let my soul roll on up to the Rochester Dam. I'll be halfway to heaven with paradise waiting, just 5 miles away from wherever I am. And Daddy, won't you take me back to Muhlenberg County, down by the Green River where paradise lay? Well, I'm sorry, my son, but you're too late in asking. Mr. Peabody's coal train hauled it away. Mr. Peabody's coal train hauled it away. Mr. Peabody's coal train is hauled it away.
Paradise, Muhlenberg County. I love that song, John. Come here. You're from Muhlenberg County, aren't you?
No, my mother and father come from there. And me and my brothers were all raised up near Chicago, Maywood, Illinois. But we used to return to Muhlenberg County a lot when I was a kid, because it's a neat place, kind of like a Walt Disney sort of place, you know, Song of the South like.
How'd you get started in Chicago? I know you played a lot around Earl of Old Town. I used to hang out there myself.
Well, I've been writing since I was like 14, but I never thought about doing it like for a living, you know. I mean, I was far as I got with that was standing in front of the mirror, trying to curl my lip and look in the mirror and how I should hold a guitar, you know. I learned how to smoke that way, too.
Yeah, did you learn how to light them?
Yeah. But, yeah, well, I used to have matches in those days. Here's some. But, I was playing around and writing for about 6, 7 years, and one night I found myself down at a place called the Fifth Peg on Armitage Avenue in Chicago. It's across the street from the Old Town School of Folk Music.
Right.
And I was watching an amateur thing, and people was getting up and they was pretty bad, you know. And I had a couple of beers too many, so I said so, like loudly. And some guy at another table says, well, why don't you get up? So I said, oh, well, of course. I got up and sang Muhlenberg County and Hello in there and Sam Stone. And they asked me if I wanted a job as a singer. So I had to run home and write 6 more songs to fill up 40 minutes at a time. I wrote another 6 songs that ended up on my first record in about 2 weeks, you know.
When did you first meet Steve Goodman?
I met Steve after I started playing at this place, Fifth Peg. Steve come over to check me. Everybody's come over to check me out over this
Well, yeah,
place,
it's just a small area up there in Old Town where all the clubs were.
But, and a lot of them hung out at the Earl of Old Town. And Goodman, would play over there all the time. Right across the street was Second City, and John Belushi was over there at the time. Excuse me. He used to come around over the Earl of Old Town when they had breaks at Second City. Belushi'd come across the street, and when we had breaks, we'd go watch Second City, you know.
Did you get to know John real well?
Belushi used to do Marlon Brando singing my songs. That was the thing. He'd jump up on the stage at Earl and he'd go, make me an angel that flies for Montgomery, you know. And he was, I always liked John a whole lot. He got me on Saturday Night Live later on. Much later when somebody canceled out last minute, they called me up and he got me on there. But I met Goodman over at the Earl of Old Town. And I'd heard his song on the radio, City of New Orleans, because he didn't have a record out, but they'd play this one station, used to play tapes of new songs. And I figured I knew what Steve Goodman looked like, you know, from listening to his voice. You know how you kind of get a picture of him? I thought he was this tall, skinny guy with like a college haircut, you know, and kind of a long, drawn-out face with maybe a little goatee or something. And this little guy comes in, you know, and he's big, fat cheeks and everything, and comes up to me and shakes my hand and introduces himself as Steve Goodman. So I think from that minute on, man, we were just buddies. Like, you know, we did it all together. We conquered the musical world in New York and got record contracts within the first 24 hours we hit New York. It was all like a Lana Turner's kind of story, you know.
I'll tell you, we all love Steve Goodman. I used to go up to Chicago and play the Quiet Night. And Steve, I think my last show was about midnight, wound up about midnight. And Steve and Earl would come over to Quiet Night. And the minute I finished my show there, then I'd go with Steve and Earl down to Earl of Old Town and sit around there and drink beer and pick until our nose bled. Good people.
Yeah, he had a 5 o'clock license.
Yeah, and I used it too. You wound up recording on Steve's record label, Red Pajamas.
No, Steve had his own, just his own records on Red Pajamas, but he'd started selling them and that, and I had been thinking about starting a label, but Steve went ahead and did it, and actually sold records and everything. Just selling them at the gigs, and people would, when record reviewers would review it, they'd put the P.O. box and people would send in for them. And it started to work out real good. So Steve made 3 albums on Red Pajamas. There's gonna be another album coming out on Red Pajamas. We did a tribute in Chicago for Steve Goodman with Arlo Guthrie and Bonnie Raitt and Jethro Burns and a whole bunch of good people that were all, you know, one way or another, you know, crossed paths with Stevie. And it came out real good, and they recorded the whole thing, and that'll be out on his label also, Red Pajamas.
Well, you finally put your thing together with Old Boy Records. How'd they get started?
Well, I was kind of kidding around. I was telling my wife, who was my girlfriend then, I said, boy, I'd like to have my own record company and call it Old Boy. And she said, why? And I said, well, when things are going real good, I could just go, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a year we've had. And when things ain't so good, you could go, oh boy, you know. And I just kind of wanted to do it, so I made a red vinyl Christmas single of me singing I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, and me and Rachel singing, my wife singing my version of Silver Bells, which sounds more like Jerry Lee or something, you know. It's just a different version of it. We put them in red vinyl, so if somebody didn't like my singing, they could sit and look at the Christmas tree through the red vinyl. You know? And we kicked off the record company.
Well, I'll tell you what, anytime a John Prine album comes out, that's an event. All the commercial record companies, you know, all the major labels, they have no idea what to do with a creative person like you. But you have a new album.
Yeah,
it's out now. In fact, I got a copy of it right here. Aimless Love.
Aimless Love.
John Prine. You look neat there, John.
I know. You know, my hair's never looked like that. It got like that all of a sudden, and then you snapped it, and then it got messy again.
Are you kidding me?
No,
I'll tell you what. You can't get this album anywhere. Anywhere at all.
No,
except from John Prine.
Right, that's it. There ain't no middleman. There isn't no like swarthy little character in Cleveland that gets the money from the people that want the music, and then he takes most of it and twirls his mustache and sends me 12 cents, you know? So I'm giving the records right to the people, and they give me the money, and if I can save enough money, I'll make another record, or I might buy a little red boat and send them pictures of me in my boat and say thanks.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody wants this album, I can make it easy. Just write to me here at the Nashville Network, and I'll make sure that they get it. And then I'll keep part of it.
I'll be checking your mailbox.
Have you ever toured with Ramblin' Jack Elliott? I know you have.
Yeah, sure have. When I was learning how to play guitar, 14 and 15 years old, my brother Dave taught me how to play guitar. And he mentioned to me once, he had given me a couple of Ramblin' Jack records, and I just really dug the way he sang and everything. And then, matter of fact, my brother, I can remember him mentioning that he said, Blowin' in the Wind was out by Peter, Paul, and Mary. And my brother said, you know that song, Blowin' in the Wind? I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, the guy that wrote that sounds a lot like Ramblin' Jack. You ought to go pick up his album. So that's how I got my first Bob Dylan album, you know. I figured anybody that sounds like Ramblin' Jack, I want to hear him, you know.
I'll tell you what, when they made Ramblin' Jack, they only made one of him and threw the whole mold away.
Well, a lot of people aren't sure why they call him Ramblin' Jack. He is well-traveled, but that's not the reason they call him that.
Why do they call him that?
I don't believe I've ever heard him finish a story, you know?
He just rambles on and on.
Yeah, when he gets to the end of it, it sounds beautiful, and I remember everything, but not quite, you know?
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to roll Ramblin' Jack out here and let him ramble.
All right.
So don't go away. We're coming right back. I want you to hear this. He's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth, partly fiction, taking ever wrong direction on his lonely way back home. That's the way Christopherson wrote a song and described Ramblin' Jack Elliott. When did you first meet Chris?
I met him here in Nashville about 15 years ago or so. I was doing a Johnny Cash TV show, and Chris was here, and he sang me that song he wrote about me and Bobby McGee, and I liked it so well I got him to play it for me again and again. I think he played it a dozen times that day.
It sounded like something that you would like and could relate to, Jack.
Yeah, I felt like it was really written about me, or as if I wished I could have wrote it.
What were you and what did you do before you were Ramblin' Jack Elliott?
Well, my dad was a doctor and my mom was a school teacher, and they would have liked me to grow up to be a doctor like Daddy, but I didn't care for the smell of medicine and the sound of babies crying and all that stuff that I heard and smelt so much when I was a kid around the house. And I kind of yearned for the fresh air and cow manure. So I ran away and joined the rodeo when I was 15. And I heard my first real guitar picking live from a rodeo clown when I was 15. And Bramer Rogers used to entertain the cowboys and the rodeo hands up in the stands in between shows and charges 25 cents admission to listen to them tell stories and jokes and poems and sing songs. And that was my first exposure to it. When I went back home, I was really a misfit there in New York City. Tried to finish up high school. I did somehow graduate. I don't know how I ever got through it, but I did. And went on to about 1 year of college, but found it almost impossible to focus my mind on schoolwork. I just wanted to keep on traveling. So I hit the road again, and then I met Woody Guthrie in '51 in New York, and sang with him for about 3 years. Traveled with him a little bit. Went out to California, down to Florida. Traveled in an old Model A Ford. Sang lots of little small gigs, $25 gigs. And it was an education. That's how I fell in love with trucks, too. I've never been able to get diesel trucks out of my blood.
Oh, yeah, you've got a thing about them diesel trucks.
Shell wrote a song about it.
Howard Axton wrote a song about your truck story.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that.
What's the real story behind that truck?
It really wasn't buried in plastic, but I love the song. I love the story about it. But that was a truck that some old guy loaned to me one time out in California for a month while he was out of town. It was a wore-out old Ford and good old truck, but the brakes were no good on the trailer. The tractor was fine. It had brakes. I took it across the Golden Gate Bridge and into San Francisco with no brakes on the trailer, and got it stuck on an uphill grade and had to back it down the hill to get a running start again. Finally got to a place and fixed the brakes, and didn't drive it too much after that. I parked it on a ranch and left it there for a while until they had to bring their cows in. Then they asked me to please take my truck away because the cows were going to get frightened. So that's the true story of that truck. I like Hoyt's version much better.
Where they buried the truck. Yeah, that's a better ending than just driving it off. What was the truck driving song that Shel Silverstein wrote? He
wrote one for me, or about me. It was called Somebody Stole My Rig.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's the one. Well, now, you are the hero of a whole generation of pickers and singers. You know, as long as I can remember, I've heard stories and people talking about Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and it seems like you ought to be 80 years old, but you're not. You're still young.
I feel like I'm 80 years old sometimes.
But you're the hero of course, Hoyt and Chris and Bob Dylan, Arlo Guthrie, and...
Well, those guys are all heroes to me, so it's nice to hear you say that.
Why don't you, Jack, why don't you go over and get with the Pulley Bone and sing us a song, and then we'll talk some more in a little bit. I got to hear some more of them Ramblin' Jack stories.
I love it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a phenomenon you may not see very often on TV. Here's a man who's the subject of songs and books and a real folk hero right here on Bobby Bear and Friends. Here's my friend, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, singing the old Mule Skinner Blues.
Good morning, Captain. Good morning to you, Shine. Good morning, Captain. Good morning to you, Shine. Do you need another mule skinner out on your new road line? the time. I can pipe my initials on a smoothback mule behind.
John, you and Jack are good buddies. How'd you two meet and get together? I know you toured some together.
Well, that's how actually we met. I mean, I think I met Jack once through Chris Christopherson, but like there was about 13 of us, and we were all talking at the same time, and it was hard to meet a new person. That's somebody. I've been listening to his records for years. I wanted to spend some time with Jack, and we did a tour in the summer of '73. We toured all little ski towns, but it was in the summertime, so just local people lived there. Jack showed up with this Winnebago, and had a couple of interesting characters with him, and his dog Caesar. Remember the guy that opened the shows, Jack? Kelly Green?
Yeah, he was funny.
Tall guy's black and gay, and he'd go out and sing, I'm an old cowhand. From the Rio Grande. There's a lot of cowboys down the front row, and I don't know if they like that or not.
He was a good comedian. He kept laughing.
He had good timing.
Yeah. He knew how to keep the danger at bay. Remember the Japanese guy that showed up in Park City, Utah?
Isao Shinagawa.
He was laying on the stage with a camera taking pictures, and I thought I knew him from Japan. I thought he was the Japanese Life magazine photographer that had been following me around Japan. But it wasn't. But I had met him in Japan, and he was the truck driver who played guitar and sang songs.
He used to sing a boy named Sue. Talk about rolling around in the mud and the blood and the beer.
Song Shel Silverstein wrote.
Yeah.
A boy named Sue.
He says, my name is Sue. How do you do? And Caesar, I had no idea that Caesar was like into theater and everything.
Well, I didn't train him that way or anything. He just liked it, you know. He especially liked Old Shep. That was his favorite song. He seemed to know it was a dog song.
Well, was he part of the act?
No, he was just my road manager.
Did he ever get into that?
Oh, he got into it all right, you know, but if I asked him to come up on stage, he wouldn't come. He was busy running around the audience, shaking hands with people and stuff. But then, if I'd play Old Shep, well, Here Comes Caesar, he didn't want to be left out then because he loved that song, and he kind of liked to ham it up, and he'd get up on stage. As soon as he heard the introductory, you know, notes to Old Shep, why, he'd start coming right up on stage, and he'd lay down over there near me with his chin resting on his front paws, and he'd be just, close his eyes and listen to the whole song, you know, and then at the end of the song, he'd kind of get up and stretch and yawn and walk off stage.
He'd usually make it over to your boot, just about the part of the song where I picked up my gun and aimed it at Shep's faithful head, and he'd roll his eyes back and look up like, how could you do that?
What a dog.
What a dog.
John, were you able to write any songs on the road when you were traveling, like on that tour? Did you write any?
No, I can't. I don't write too much on the road. I might get some ideas on the road. Or sometimes if somebody wants to sit up all night and write up a song, you know, Steve Goodman and I have done that several times. Wrote real late at night on the road. But usually, I've come home off the road with a lot of airport stationery, full of ideas and other things, but sometimes I'll lose them. I like to read them years later. I get a kick out of them.
What do you write best at?
I don't know. I'd move there if I knew where. Seems like the morning is the best time to write, you know, and just get up and grab your guitar and play. It seems like everything.
Fresher.
They might have been cooking in there all night, and something. The first thing that comes out of your, you know, off the top of your head in the morning, you know, might be a song.
How would you describe your style of writing?
Well, I think I write the way I do because of a vitamin deficiency. I don't eat any vegetables. I just eat meat and potatoes. And I think I'm trying to make up in my songwriting for what I lack in vitamins or something, because some of the songs are pretty weird. Some of them I don't tell people about right away because I don't want them, I don't know what they're going to think about it. You know, I've heard other songwriters say, too, that like sometimes a song just comes to you. And if you don't write it down, it's going to go on down the street, and somebody else is going to write that same song. They travel around like that. And some of these songs, I don't know where to let them go. I keep on going down the street or not, you know? I wrote this one song called Sabu Visits the Twin Cities Alone. And I stayed in my room for about 3 days because I thought the song police were going to come after me or something. But it turned out to be a pretty good song anyway.
We're going to take a short break and come right back and pick up where we left off. I got something I want to ask Jack. Don't go away.
This is getting good.
Of all the places that you've been, and you've been just about everywhere there is to go, what's your favorite?
Golly damn. Just right there in the front seat of my motorhome, I guess.
Just moving.
Moving. Yeah, moving. I like it in the country. Just anywhere where there's not too many traffic, you know.
You go to Europe a lot.
I've only been there 3 times, but I stayed over there for 6 solid years one time.
I was going to ask you if you liked it. Well, you have albums that you recorded while you were in Europe.
Yeah, I got about 12 or 13 of them over there.
They love cowboys over there.
Yeah, evidently so. I sure had a nice time traveling around with my cowboy hat and singing, you know, on street corners in Paris and even down in Greece, Athens. I sang on a street corner one day.
Was it that hat?
No, it wasn't it. This hat was almost brand new when I gave it to you that time.
You mean I messed it up that much?
Yeah, you kind of broke it in for me.
How long you had it?
Proud.
When did he give you that hat?
This is an interesting.
He gave it to me at the end of our tour, the ski
12
tour.
years ago.
Yeah.
And 12 and a half years ago, and I tried wearing it for about 3 months because I was so proud of the Ramblin' Jack Elliott gave me his cowboy hat. And it was a size too small for my head. This guy that made it for him suited it to his skull. And I'd go around and this little hat is on top of my head. And I go, Ramblin' Jack Elliott gave me this. So finally I stopped wearing it because it gave me headaches. And Jack asked me if I still had it when he came to town last night. And I had it sitting in there on my hat rack.
This is pretty amazing because of all the hats. I've had about 18 hats, and I started to write a book about all the different hats I had and tried to keep track of them, what I was doing when I wore them, what kind of hat, color, size, and make, and model, and so forth. One of them got stolen by a movie star friend of mine.
Who?
Michael J. Pollard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, still
Weird
friend.
Michael.
Right after that, I haven't seen him again. He took the hat and headed for the hills. Probably made a house in it somewhere. I wish him well. I'd love to see him again.
You were in Greenwich Village back in the early '60s, around in that period of time when things were really starting to happen. Dylan, Shell, Silverstein was hanging out down there. What was it like? I would have loved to have been there, wouldn't you, John?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
it makes me real lonesome when I go to the village now and I don't see anybody that remotely even resembles the people that I knew or didn't know, but they knew me, and I'd, like take a little walk across town and everybody'd say hi to me. And they knew me by my name, and I knew about half of them by their name, too. And now it seems like just a total zoo, a freak show. I'm not comfortable walking on the streets there, really, and the places where I used to go aren't even there. All of my favorite places where I used to sing or eat or whatever have been converted into a shoe store or a Middle Eastern restaurant.
I just recently found out they have after-hours bars in New York City. I mean, down in the village. I never knew there was any. I thought they was hiding the garbage down there, those little steps.
Oh, yeah.
I walked down one night and there's a light on. And I beat on the door and walked in and introduced myself and stayed till 7 in the morning.
I was one time with Bob Dylan and some stranger, perfect stranger, probably didn't know who Bob was, and so Bob was very comfortable with him. He walked right up to Bob on the street as we were leaving this hangout of ours because it was closing. It was closing time. And the guy said, "I know a place where you can go." And Bob said, "Oh, yeah, where is it?" And he said, "It's right around the corner, follow me." And we all followed him. We went down there, and we spent about 2 or 3 hours having a great old time in this hidden away downstairs little place with a jukebox and a pool table and everything. That was in my drinking days. I don't drink anymore. Can't handle it.
And you're not a problem when you're stoned, as Chris said in his song.
If I did get stoned, it would be a problem, but I just don't get stoned anymore because I don't want the problems. They make good stories, but I can't handle it.
We got to take a break. Don't go away because we're coming right back with some more.
At 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 Central, 9:30 a.m. Pacific on TNN, the Nashville Network.
John, we're about to run out of time. But before we do, I'd like to thank you and Ramblin' Jack Elliott for being here tonight. And I'd like to go home with one of the songs that you and Donnie Fritz wrote.
Yep, that's
great
right.
song, great song. The oldest baby in the world. She got the mind of a child and a body peeking over the hill. She would if she could, and she should, but nobody will. With her nails painted red and her hair so unnaturally curled, I think that she may be the oldest baby in the world. Your turn now.
She's tasted the night life, what's left her was nothing but hunger. And all the available men seem to think that they want something young. But youth is a costume, and the beauty within lies unfurled. And I think that she may be the oldest baby in the world.
Let me tell you something. Fast horses win races, rough flushes beat aces, and everyone's playing to keep.
That's the truth.
What do you think, John?
So let's turn out the light and rock that old baby to sleep.
She loves the sound of the rain, but you know, she's still afraid of the thunder